So we are going to cut down to that future match here. Is Dominic Harvey on your left versus Noah Wilson playing the sort of stock best deck of the format as of 6 or 7 months ago, Grixis Delver.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to imagine that Dom has specifically chosen this lands deck because he really likes his Delver matchup, and this has kind of historically been the case over the course of Legacy. Lands, just like the strategy of the lands deck, just trying to attack mana with Wasteland. You have ways to prevent creature combat with Maze of Ith, and just all of these things, and it's very, very difficult for the Grixis Delver deck to kind of establish a clock and fight through all of this kind of land-based interaction. There's just your lightning bolts and fatal pushes don't really do anything here.
We are going to see Noah Wilson Force of Will down that Mox Diamond. Dom is going to lead on a Wasteland into the
boots with the fur.
Yeah, pull up the Lavaspur Boots. Long story short, it gives haste and ward 1 for an equip of 1. But this is a new card from OTJ that has been pretty popular with people with Urza Saga. It's just having a real plan with your constructs and being able to beat down by attacking a turn sooner is massive. So we see it Dom here, and it's really nice too, Devin, because it lets you main phase your Dark Depths and attack in for lethal.
Yeah, and getting a slight glimpse at Dom's hand, I think, Mason, that Dom's only colored source of mana was that Mox Diamond, and now that it's been Force of Willed, I might be mistaken, but Dom does not have access to green mana as far as I can tell currently, and I might be mistaken here, but yeah, that is a massive. If that is the case, that is a massive Force of Will here for Noah, just stunting the development in a massive way here for Dom.
Noah Wilson responds to the Wasteland with a Brainstorm. I don't think Noah has any fetch lands, though, so it might be Brainstorm locked as we are going to see an Urza Saga for Dom and passing the turn here. We did have a Wasteland, though, for Noah, so there goes that Urza Saga. It's hard to believe, but turn 3 is starting here, as we are going to see Dom cast an Ancient too.
Yeah, and we saw Noah run out. So Dom, interesting thing happened there. Dom played the Wasteland on turn 1 with the boots, then Noah ran out the land, even though he knew about the Wasteland face up. Maybe either signaling that he had more lands. And here is a Thespian stage, Mason. That's a 2020.
Ooh, Dom Harvey 2020. We had another mana. If we got a Mox Diamond from hand, the game is over. It might just be over anyways, as Grixis Delver typically only has Brazen Bar as a way to get out of this at this point in the game. And we've seen Noah pick them up. And this is why Dominic Harvey's lands deck is so powerful. It can play a fair game, but also produce things like that you mentioned, so hard to interact with. And what's Noah going to do? Not Wasteland the Urza Saga? It's going to win the game if he doesn't. Let's check out Noah's sideboard and see what he has available for him in this game number 2 with Dominic Harvey. As we have 2 Pyros, 2 Hydro Blast, 2 Force Negation, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Torpor Orb, a Reb and a Beb. That's red and blue, and I'll watch those at home. Surgical Extraction, Meltdown, and Counterbalance. Sorry, I looked at the wrong player's sideboard. Excuse me. I was reading it. Yeah, here you go, Devin. You can read it for the players.
I got you. 3 Pyroblast, 2 Counterbalance, 2 Hydroblast, 2 Meltdown, 2 Force, 2 Surgical, a Price of Progress, and a Grafdigger's Cage. Pretty similar cards than the what you were reading off. But as far as what you mentioned, the mount spells for Merit Lage, sometimes you see Brazen Borrower, Echoing Truth, and looking at Noah's deck list, there are none of those. So if Merit Lage hits the battlefield, that is here to stay. Now, that doesn't mean that Noah doesn't have tools. It does have copies of Meltdown, which can help fight over Construct tokens, Lavaspur Boots, Mox Diamond. So that card is extremely powerful in this matchup. Surgical Extraction, also very good at removing life from the Loam from the graveyard. And, if there's like a weird situation where, say, Dom tries to maybe mills over a Thespian stage or a Dark Depths, or goes for the combo and gets baselanded, then, you can Surgical the Dark Depths or stage, and then the copy of Price of Progress. That's pretty good against a deck that's playing a lot of lands.
Let's check out Dom's sideboard. We have 4 Sword of the Plowshares, 2 Torpor Orb, 2 Sylvan Library, 2 Force of Vigor, a Pithing Needle, a Haywire Mite, a Dismember, a Surgical Extraction, and a Caracas. What do you like here?
So for Dom, some interesting choices. Swords to Plowshares seems like a kind of a slam dunk here. You want to be able to just stymie that early pressure to be able to kill Delvers and Channelers and whatnot. Also Murktide Regen. Along with the Dismember, so the cheap removal seems good. Sylvan Library can help fight over, or just generally be good if the game goes a little bit longer. Maybe resources get traded a little bit more. Could see something like that. Dom might also want to go towards something like a Pithing Needle that you can tutor for off of Urza Saga to be able to shut off Wasteland. Now, keep in mind that does shut off your own Wasteland, so that could be a little awkward, but maybe something you want to go towards. Past that, don't think you want to change too much else, but the cheap removal and the Sylvans and the Pithing Needle.
Yep. So our players are shuffling it for game 3 here. I'm sorry, for game 2, excuse me, we'll go down to the feature match area. And, if you follow Dom on Twitter, you'll see every other weekend or so there's some Canadian Legacy tournament, because Dom is Canadian. He flew down here for our NRG and is then flying over to the Pro Tour in Seattle, happening next weekend. And Dom just basically posts finals for won every Legacy thing he seemingly plays. Just every time playing this Lands deck. And so that's why I talked about it earlier. He really is Dom is known as being an Amulet Titan master. And I would be hard pressed to pick someone to, play for my life with the Lands deck over Dom in Legacy. I'm sure there's some killer Magic Online grinder whose name I don't know, but I would gladly take Dom in the dark over anybody.
Yeah, the man just doesn't lose. I don't know what else to say. I mean, he's just an absolute machine when it comes to these kind of lands style strategies. And, also worth noting, he is sporting the 61st card today. I wonder if you had to guess, Mason, if you look at Dom's deck list, what do you think was the 61st card? I'm going to say the Lavaspur Boots.
I think it's the Lavaspur Boots. I'm sure there was something else before, but I'm sure that flex card just got swapped with Lavaspur Boots.
No, he was playing 60. He just, I want to play this Boots, but I can't cut anything.
Sure, yeah. Honestly, this is why we let Dom commentate so much, Stefan, because if we don't, he just comes down to the events and wins them. So we have to keep him wrangled in.
Everybody's just playing for second place.
Yeah. Dom, an absolute killer. I know I keep saying it. Noah Wilson doing great here as well at 6-1. Clearly knows what's up with this deck. Very quickly, forced the will and kind of knew what seems to be going on here. Just had a situation where, got last game. We'll see if he can pull it up here. He's going to get a draw there with his Mishra's Bauble. Drew a Meltdown. Dom has a Crop Rotate and some cards in hand. Looks like a Dark Depths is one of those.
Yeah, can't quite see if there's maybe an Exploration in Dom's hand. See a Stage at Dark Depths. Like you mentioned, the Crop Rotation. See how Dom wants to sequence this. We're going to lead on Thespian Stage. Perhaps wants to deploy that first in case there's a Daze in the Mox Diamond, and there is the Mox Diamond, so heads up play here for Dom. Wants to make sure that one resolves. We'll see. Noah did fight over the Mox with Force of Will in game 1, but it looks like that is not the case for game 2.
Dom pitching to the trigger for the Mox Diamond. Going to get rid of the Caracas. We know that Noah can play the Meltdown next turn if we have the red man to clean up this Mox. If he doesn't, and Dom has, something like an Exploration here, could be facing another 2020.
Meltdown is such a beating in this matchup too, because it just kind of undoes all of the work that Urza Saga does, not only killing the constructs, but also killing whatever the Urza Saga gets. So, Dom has to be aware. I'm sure Dom is aware of that, and Noah's just going to fire it off now. Just get that Mox out of here.
Yeah, I really like this from Noah. We saw Dom clearly has a green spell, right? There's some colored spell. We assume it's green because Dom's deck is mostly green. And clearly he was tanking pretty hard on what land to discard. So just fire this off now and just get your Stone Rain in. Just a 1 mana blow it up. As we are going to see a Crop Rotate on the Thespian stage. Noah does have a Surgical in hand as well.
We're going to force this Crop Rotation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like Noah may have had the Force of Will to try to fire over the Mox, but because we had the Meltdown, he was like, okay, well, I'm just going to let it resolve and blow it up. And now Dom just has nothing. You lost the Mox Diamond. You lost the land. Get it all out of here.
Yeah, and Noah has Surgical too, so next turn we might see a Surgical in the draw step on like this Thespian stage to turn off that angle of the Dark Depths. We'll have to see how Noah wants to play it. Might have bigger plans in mind. Might just have the Dark Depths covered a different way. Drew a Murktide for turn. That's pretty big.
Yeah, if Noah has a land, it looks like there is a fetch land. You could say maybe crack the fetch, get a land, play the Surgical Extraction, and then Surgical Extraction force Meltdown to make it a 6/6 Murktide. And it looks like Noah is lining that play up, yeah.
Yeah, I really like this. If you take the Dark Depths, I'm sure there's some way I'm forgetting. There used to be Vampire Hexmage type stuff, but there isn't any currently. It looks like we have double Swords to Plowshare, Exploration, and Elvish Reclaimer here for Dom Harvey.
Yeah, now that Murktide Regent looking not the best, looking a little bit worse, although no colored mana here for Dom, just a bunch of colored spells in the Dark Depths. So, Noah might be in a position where he's like, okay, I'm just going to cast this Murktide. If you draw the white source, you draw the white source. If not, you are dead.
Yep. Noah taking a second here. Make sure Dom doesn't have the 5th stage in hand and deck. I give him a game win. Be pretty big. But also looking to see what Dom brought in so he's ready for game number 3 and the rest of this game as well. And if you're Noah, do you think you just slam the Murktide and just force him to have it?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Yeah, no way is going to jam it. I like this because, like I said, you know that Dom doesn't have the white source. If there is a lot of lands in Dom's deck that either produce colorless mana or, well, we
Oh,
found a white source when it goes to the play tapped.
the Surveil land with the Lush Portico. Gonna
Okay.
get it going on. Gonna leave that card on top. If Noah can draw Wasteland, though.
That would be hilarious. Wasteland or perhaps even a Daze, because there's 2 lands in play, but
Oh,
he does draw the Wasteland! Oh my god.
Oh, Dom had the Wasteland on top and left it there. I think thinking he maybe needed to fight over a different battle, and understandable as a Delver of Secrets off the top as well. Dom's getting knocked down by this Murktide.
Oh, that Lush Portico, just the, everything that Dom never wanted to see, that ETB tap land for the white source. And, now I don't think we have life totals updated, obviously, but Dom is in a world of hurt here. I think after taking 2 hits off the Murktide, should be down to about 8, and that's going to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Dom could dodge the Delver, he would have won, but the Reclaimer was not the white source he needed. And then we're gonna move on to game number 3 here as Dom kept a hand with pretty powerful stuff going on, but Noah with the answer to that green source. Made it look pretty easy.
Yeah, and that was just such an awkward situation for Dom with the 2 swords to Plowshares drawing the 1 Lush Portico. Basically, every other land that produces white mana, which is either a fetch land or a Savannah. And I guess that's really it at that point, right? There's 1 Savannah, 1 Heath, 1 Misty, 1 Catacombs, and the 1 Portico. Past that, not a ton of white sources. So it already didn't really have, a ton of outs there to be able to find that white source, but just very unfortunate. Now, going back into game 3, did we change anything? Play, draw? I think probably not. Dom's going to want the removal spells, whether he's in the play or the draw. So I don't think a ton is going to change here for Dom.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything massive changing. Maybe Dom saw some card he wasn't expecting, but it looked like everything was pretty stock from where I was sitting. So I can't imagine anything too big there. When it comes to Noah Wilson on Grixis Delver, I imagine we're in a pretty similar spot. But what you can't expect is for us to be in Indianapolis on May 11th and 12th. We have a modern 10K showdown on Saturday. You want one of those showdowns you could play against Dominic Harvey and, Stephen Dykeman, Matthew Hoey, Sean Gallagher, all at our championship. Sunday, have another chance to win it with your friends as a team 10K showdown, standard, modern, and pioneer for those seats. It's going to be pretty exciting to see all of that happen. And then we're going to St. Louis after that on June 22nd and the 23rd. Saturday, we have a 10K Pioneer Showdown. That will get you to the $35,000 Invitational we're talking about a second ago. And that invitation also gets you the Pro Tour. This is a small little shout out to that. Sunday, 5K Modern Trial. A lot of Magic to be played. Speaking of which, let's head back to the feature match here as I'm sure our players are about ready to game as they are finishing up their mulligans here.
Yeah, and speaking of our next events, don't forget, we are trying to hit a follower goal. So if you are new to the stream and just joining us, we just got a raid from XJ Cloud. Big shout out to the raid. Thanks again for that. But if you are new to the stream, do us a big favor and go ahead and hit that follow button. If you're going to be at one of our future events and you want to see our lovely director Norm and potentially some different hair color, you have the power to unlock that particular avenue. So please give us a follow if you're enjoying the content.
That's true. Maybe we can get something that the people, maybe we can have maybe we can up the ante, because Norm getting the hair color, it's not on camera. Not like Devin.
Wait,
maybe we should
Norm?
Get Devin to
Mason, I don't have hair, okay?
You have some hair. I can see it, buddy.
You have more hair than I do.
Yeah, but my hair's already orange. It doesn't really, so we match.
Maybe I'll shave my head and do the opposite.
I feel no offense, man, of the 2 things I pitched involving hair, yours is the one that's way less radical than mine. Imagine if you have the orange sideburns. At least that does, you know what I mean? But it's just anyways, would you see Dom and Noah tanking? Looks like Dom is maybe kept. Noah gonna go down to at least 6. I'm unsure. We were doing the slides here. I couldn't see it. The players had already, taken them all out. It looks like they hadn't, since Dom wasn't putting anything back.
Yeah, and then for Dom's side of things, kind of trying to think of what specific cards we're looking for in the opening hand. Dom's deck is a lot more explosive when he has those kind of mana acceleration elements, I should say, stuff like Exploration and Mox Diamond. So maybe looking for those in the opening hand. And there's also one thing we didn't kind of touch on was the Sphere of Resistances, much more powerful on the play than on the draw, especially if you have the Mox Diamond in the opener to deploy it on turn 1. So it is possible that Dom maybe wanted to go away from those in the draw, but perhaps they're back in the deck for game 3 when Dom's in the play.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to see. Noah's going to need, this is one of the things about this deck is you kind of need the right tools, right? Like Wasteland's up thing you're looking for. Force Will as well in order to stop those fast early starts. Force Negation does a very similar role.
Looks like a whole lot of lands here for Noah. I think I saw two Volcanics, 2 fetches, and I believe a Force Negation, a Force of Will, and 1 card I could not quite get a good look of. Channeler, okay.
Yeah, I think I think it's just Force Negation, Ponder, Channeler, 3 lands. I think Noah's just all in.
Okay, I think I saw the retro card and I thought it was a Force Will, but yeah, you're right. I think it's a Ponder. So Ponder, Channeler, Force, 3 lands. And Dom does not have one of those mana accelerants in the form of Exploration or Mox Diamond. We'll see what we have on the second turn. Looks like a Stage, and there's the Exploration. Okay, so perhaps I guess I was going to say maybe I had it on turn 1 and wanted to wait a minute, but if you had it, you probably would have played it.
Looks like maybe a dexterity error there. I'm not really sure. Players seem to know what's up. Might be a situation where Dom goes, tap my Cradle. Then he looks down and he's like, oh, that wasn't the Cradle, Oops.
Yeah.
And Noah's like, yeah, man, we all know what you've been trying to do. Mox Diamond is going to get played. If you are Noah, like you mentioned, you probably know what the draw for turn was. Had to be that Exploration almost assuredly. Force going to the graveyard. Dom playing Dark Depths. And boom! 20!
And Mason, as we talked about, we know that Noah does not have any removal spells, and Noah just picked up a copy of Molten Collapse. Unfortunately for Noah, there is a specific line of text on Merit Lage that prevents that one from working.
Indestructible means we will not be destroying it. More news at 11 as we are going to Ponder, Surveil the Surgical to Graveyard. We have Force and 2 more. And you do have to wonder if Noah had just, forced that Exploration, what could have been. Obviously, this would have came down a lot slower, but, we gave Noah some time.
Yeah, I think specifically because it was Force of Negation and not Force of Will, he was trying to hold it for a life from the Loam because that exiles the Loam. If it was Force of Will instead of Negation, he might have fought over that Exploration, but kind of maybe just got punked out by his own card, as it were.
Yeah, and sometimes when you're on the mulligan, you kind of keep a hand like that. You have to hope it kind of lines up with the way you want it to, right? Or it's just like, I can't beat this anyways, but if you have a Loam hand, I've got an out if she's in you.
And I guess maybe Noah's playing towards chump blocking for a turn with the Channelers. Maybe announce going to combat, then second main phase, cracking a fetch, casting a cantrip. But, again, we know, and Dom doesn't know this, but we know that Noah does not have any bounce spells, right? There's no Borrowers, no Echoing Truce, none of that stuff. So we know that Noah is basically drawing dead, but, in Dom's position, he's like, well, maybe I'm just trying to get a chump blocker and then trying to find a bounce spell next turn.
Yeah, I was looking at the players there. Noah looked through his deck after fetching, I think trying to think about what he could actually draw into. And it looked like he kind of said something, and Dom kind of shrugged. Yeah, and I think you were saying I don't have any outs, and we didn't have one there. So congratulations to Dominic Harvey. He is going to be in our top 8, looking for that back-to-back, and you could probably expect to see more Dom as the the day continues. But we do have a backup match, Devin, so let's go down there and check out some High Tide.
At this point, Mason, everybody's just playing for seconds. So we get to look at our backup feature match and see which one of these players has the best chance at getting second place here. We have James Robertson on the left with High Tide, kind of a blast from the past here, and Anders Larson on Rakdos Aggro. Initially when I saw this deck list, I thought it was going to be a Painter deck, but it turns out that's not even close to what it is, Mason.
Yeah, it's kind of just cards that look like Painter, but also kind of look like other decks, and you're just playing good cards. It looks like Fable is like, it is, I don't know how to describe it. Fable is in hand here.
No, you're right.
Anders Larson is maybe just going to slam a Fable, which, you know what? Might as well. What are you going to do? Play around days?
Yeah, the deck list here for Anders is Broadside Bombardiers, which is a card that we've seen a little bit on camera in the Goblins deck a little bit earlier. Bowmasters, Goblin Engineers, Goblin Welders, and then the cards that we're kind of tutoring and searching for at that point are stuff like Phyrexian Devourer, Chaos Defiler, Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Got some Soul Cauldrons, some Lotus Petals, Fast Mana Fables, Urza Sagas. So kind of a bit of an interesting deck. And then for James, we have the kind of the classic High Tide. For people who have not seen this deck, it's trying to generate a ton of mana with things like High Tide, the aforementioned, kind of the namesake of the deck, along with Sapphire Medallion, and then a bunch of ways to untap lands, right? You have Snap, you have Cloud of Fairies, things like that, and then eventually go to Time Spiral, which also untaps your lands, and then the win condition eventually at some point, once you've generated a trillion mana, is Fae of Wishes for, I believe we are going for Brain Freeze. So yeah, Fae of Wishes for Brain Freeze.
Can't beat Show and Tell. Just dead.
Well, you actually can. So we have that covered. You can Fae of Wishes for Brain Freeze yourself, and then Fae of Wishes for Jace Wielder of Mysteries.
Oh, every angle.
You got it covered.
Every angle of the Buffalo there. So we're going to see a Fable the Mirror Breaker get played there after a second. James Robertson going to start the turn off. Looks like we have
And just a quick note for the folks watching at home, this is a win it in. The record's on screen. I believe these players are 5-1-1. But we, as we talked about, there were the first three tables drew. This is table 6. Right. Yeah. The first three. No, this is table 5. Sorry. So the first three tables drew. Table 4 we just watched. This is table 5. So this is a win it in for either of these players. So we'll have to see which one gets in the top 8.
Yep. And, from James, it's a pretty interesting perspective because you are trying to get as many islands as you can in play before you start going because your High Tide is so much better with the more islands you have. And Anders is clearly up to something, right? Like you're seeing a lot of fast mana, you're seeing a lot of red cards. You might assume it's something like Welder, but, not a ton of pressure. So we might see James sort of try and take things a little slower, get a couple of land drops before really having to go for it.
Yeah, and I wonder if we can get I wonder if we can get Phyrexian Devourer on screen. This is that this is such a weird card. And this is the card that Anders is looking to kind of tutor for or maybe put into the graveyard. And I believe there's some sort of combo with this where you have this under I get the Soul Cauldron. The text of it says you can remove the top card of your library from the game to put X counters on the creature, where X is into remove cards converted mana cost. So if you have the Devourer and the Ballista both under Soul Cauldron, you can just exile your whole deck, put a bunch of counters, and then just kind of one-shot people. So I think that's eventually what Anders is trying to set up with those kind of engineers and welders to tutor for that stuff.
Yeah, seeing this card on screen, I remember seeing this card, Devin, was our good friend Dominic Harvey winning some Canadian Legacy tournament with this combo in his deck.
Probably, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's a pretty powerful combination. And it's weird, right? Like, Legacy is in such a unique place right now. It feels like the format is so, like, I don't want to say solved, but you kind of know what the big threats are. But there's all this, like, introduction of these new and powerful cards that are really complicated. You have to figure out how best to use them, right? Like Agatha Soul Cauldron.
Yep, exactly. So here is a High Tide for James. See if we can perhaps get a little Storm combo going in for folks at home who have not seen High Tide. This deck takes a lot of game actions. Basically all of them.
I have to go to play-by-play mode soon. Uh-oh. High Tide.
All right, second High Tide. Yeah. There's the card on your screen for folks who have maybe not seen this card before. It until end of turn, whenever a player taps an island for mana, you get an additional blue. And the most important thing about High Tide is they stack. So if you cast the first High Tide, and then if you've cast 2 High Tides, your island's now tap for 3. And funny enough, what ends up happening with Time Spiral is even if you've cast 4 High Tides, you shuffle all of them back in, and you can just get the turns where your islands are tapping for 7 or 8 mana, which it's kind of wild.
Yep. Cloud of Fairies there in this battlefield untaps 2 islands. That's going to be +4 mana. Then you see an Orcish Bowmaster, and this is the card you're afraid of. And Force of Will. We've got that one covered.
Yeah, that was about to be a blowout because the snap was targeting the Cloud of Fairies. And if the Bowmaster resolved, the Cloud of Fairies would have died and the snap would not have resolved, which meant that James would not have untapped the lands.
True. And now we're going to see this snap here is a great way to sort of generate more mana. Doesn't really cost you anything. The Cloud of Fairies goes back to hand with the blue mana, untap the lands, get more mana. And we're going to see James here. He's sort of keeping track of the mana on pen and paper, which is the correct way to do it. We sometimes do it with dice and they like land here on coverage, make it easier for y'all. But technically in paper, you should do it this way. Cloud of Fairies coming back down. Really, Devin, right now, if you've ever played Hidden Strings in Pioneer and you're watching Legacy, we're basically stringsing some Lotus Fields right now.
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's 2 high tides. All of our islands are Lotus
Fields. Oh
now.
My God. We had it. The last card in hand is Time Spiral. We're going to remove it from the game. Each player's going to shuffle their decks and their graveyards in together and then draw 7 new cards. And it's going to be pretty tough for Anders to win from here, but it is not deterministically dead. James could fizzle, and this is why the high tide deck sometimes doesn't see plays. It does very powerful stuff, but is not a deterministic kill.
Yeah. So James is going to have a whole bunch of mana floating with access to those islands that, remember, do currently tap for 3 because we've cast 2 high tides. And James is going to get a look at 7 more cards. And, you know, as we talked about, Orcish Bowmaster, extremely good against James's deck because drawing a lot of cards. But, you know, Anders does not have the requisite mana to be able to cast it, only has that Lotus Petal. So even if he is able to find something like an Orcish Bowmaster's, not going to be able to cast it this turn. And presumably if James doesn't, you know, totally just completely brick off, you would imagine that James probably has the tools to be able to close this game out.
Yep. Mind's Desire being unbanned the last 6 months was a huge get for this deck. Really allows it to have another card that can kind of hit. And then even if that's like the only thing you get, you know, right now we would see 5 brand new cards, for example. Sorry, more than 5 new cards, for example. And it's just so hard to sort of miss on like draw 7, draw 10, you know, like you will eventually get out of there. As Brainstorm is going to be the play here with some of our floating blue mana.
Yeah, it looks like the storm count is now 9 with 13 blue mana floating. That's those are both very large numbers. If you're a high tide fan, probably good news for you. And yeah, as we mentioned, the high tide stack. So if James finds more of them, those islands are going to tap for even more mana. And then as we talked about, James's ultimate win condition here is eventually go Fae of Wishes for Brain Freeze. And if for some reason the Brain Freeze is not good enough, if your opponent has Eldrazi, you can Fae of Wishes for Brain Freeze, target yourself, and then the Fae of Wishes again, because you can just pick it up with its own ability. The second Fae of Wishes gets Jason Wielder of Mysteries, that targets you. There you go. Game over.
We're going to see here. James.
We got the table spotter keeping track of stuff now. That's awesome. You love to see that.
I super love it because it means the pace of play continues at a good rate. James has the 4th high tide. I'm sorry, the 5th high tide here. So now all our lands tap for 5 blue mana.
Is it the 5th or the 4th?
This is the 4th high tide. Sorry, it's the 4th high tide, but we're making 5 mana. Excuse me.
Right.
Sorry, yeah. I was trying to keep track of just how much mana we were making. That's foolish of me, and I will do better. Speaking of doing better, Twitch chat should do better and follow us on Twitch so they don't miss any of the action. That one was weak. That was weak by my standards. You got to call yourself out when the time comes.
Tried to set yourself up.
Yeah, I fell down.
Well, here's good news, Mason. Fae of Wishes has hit the stack, and I think there might be enough Storm to just Brain Freeze Anders out. Not exactly. I believe that's 2 dice. We're just going to go for the Jace. Okay.
Yeah, it might be a situation where we're just going to mill ourselves out because we know there's no weird stuff happening. Anders helping him out. Be like, yep, 5 blue left or whatever. Who cares? You got 15 mana in your lands over there. James is going to tap some 10 blue. Why not?
Tap 2 islands for 10 blue mana. What are we going here for James? It's going to be a Cloud of Fairies. So I believe Storm Count 13, and then you go pick up the Fae of Wishes, recast, Storm Count 14, Brain Freeze, Storm Count 15, and I'm pretty sure James probably has less than 45 cards in his own deck at this point.
Well, we can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're actually 1 short.
All right, we're going to go for Time Spiral. Draw 7 again.
Yeah.
So nice. Let's do it twice. And by twice, I mean a 3rd time.
I don't... James is looking at someone and talking, and I have no clue what's going on with that regard. Is James just chit-chatting with Dom over there? Because this is a rewinded match. We recorded for you, so we can make sure to get you all the winning in action. I wonder if he's just, chit-chatting.
Just having a conversation.
Yeah. He's got the dub. It's just at this point, it is really just a matter of going through, because now with the Fae of Wishes, right, like we talked about, you can pick that up and tutor over and over from your sideboard. So, even if we just end up getting something like, the Brain Freeze, replay it, discard, it's so hard to fizzle from here.
And the Jace is already in play. So we only have to cast it once to get the Brain Freeze to target ourselves. So, James, at this point, James probably has this game locked up. I'm looking at James's sideboard, and I'm now reading a card for the very first time that I've never seen in my life before. And maybe you might be looking at the same card. It's called Teferi's Realm, which apparently is a 3-mana enchant world. So we maybe need to get some world enchantment rulings. It says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses artifacts, creatures, lands, or global enchantments. All cards of that type phase out. Get some phasing on there.
Okay. James, 5th High Tide, 6 mana.
Mason, talk to me about the difference between enchant world and global enchantments. Any ideas?
That's before my time, Devin.
Okay.
Listen, I worked on the game, but I didn't work on the game. All right. I did a little stint. I got some Modern Horizons, did a little Assassin's Creed. I'm out. I'm out of there. I don't know about this enchant stuff. We do see a ponder happening. I think James showed Anders that he has a Mind's Desire in hand and was saying, I kind of got this. And Anders is like, well, you got to make sure you actually hit. So I think James is maybe just actually going through actions just to make sure Anders doesn't have some weird, free spell that causes something to happen, which we know from looking at the deck doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if James is kind of just knows he has it locked up, just making sure that he's not missing anything. Because as we talked about, the Fae of Wishes can just go get the Brain Freeze. So, he's playing around something. Not exactly sure what it is, but he's he's doing his thing, just getting some camera time, casting some high tides. There's the Mind's Desire for approximately 10 trillion.
Yeah, 17 looks to be the storm count. It's pretty good. It's gonna be a lot of cards.
It's a lot. It's like half your deck. Okay, the question is, are they going to go exile card, shuffle, exile card, shuffle? Please tell me that's not the case.
Well, the card says...
Mason, please.
Devin, really, it's, this reminds me a lot of Nexus of Fate, where players would just be dead, and they just would continuously play.
Oh, thank God.
Okay, all right. Tournament shortcut.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
Well, you can respond and cast something in the middle, right?
Technically, yes.
So, yeah, I guess James maybe wants to brainstorm something back to hit. But I'm sure you can just be like, hey, I'm holding priority here or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's the medallion. They cost cheap. Medallion. Things cost less. These cards are cool. EDH love them. Third one, boom.
Medallions.
Anders thinking about, what am I going to get out of my sideboard for game 2 and 3?
That is a good question. So let me look at Anders. Well, I don't know if we're going to do sideboards yet, but
yeah,
there's a couple of things.
Anders is thinking. We'll talk about it soon enough.
Yeah.
We got some cards. Rakdos colors, you got some good stuff. Artifacts are pretty good at fighting over stuff against snap. Looks like we're snapping the Fae back, but bam.
Anders maybe thinking about what they're going to go get for dinner tonight.
Mm-hmm. Could be chicken.
Perhaps. All right. Anders has given up. Just wanted to see the win condition. That is going to do it for game number 1. James Robertson on High Tide, defeating Rakdos aggro in the hands of Anders Larson. So what do we got in the sideboard? Mason, what do we got here for Anders?
Yeah, in Anders' sideboard, we have 4 Magus of the Moon, 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Pyroblast, 2 Fury, a Thorn of Amethyst, and a Haywire Mite. What do you like, Devin?
So I did mention there's a couple of cards here, mostly the 3 copies of Pyroblast. Anders didn't really have a ton of meaningful interaction in the first game, and now has 3 1-mana counterspells, so those are pretty good. Give me the Thorn of Amethyst as well. You could consider the Haywire Mite to be able to blow up the medallions. Not sure if you want those. And then Leyline of the Void, I don't think that does anything. I guess if you have enough dead cards, Leyline could like exile High Tides so they can't get shuffled back in off of Time Spiral, but that seems kind of narrow.
Mm-hmm. Let's check out James Robertson's sideboard. We saw a little bit of it last game via the Fey Wishes. We have 4 Flusterstorm, 3 Defense Grid, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Teferi's Whelm, 1 Hercules Recall, 1 Echoing Truth, 1 Jace Wheel of Mystery, and a Brain Freeze. What do you like, Devin, and why?
So the one-ofs are going to stay here. The Jace, the Brain Freeze, the Echoing Truth, and the Recall. I kind of assume those are all Fae of Wishes targets. Maybe you could consider bringing in one of the bounce spells and keeping one in the sideboard. Past that, the Flusterstorms, if you expect the Rebs out of the sideboard of Anders, you could potentially bring those in. And I don't know, Defense Grid is weird, right? Because you could consider it, because normally it's only good against like the blue control decks, but Anders has not only Pyroblast, but also Orcish Bowmasters, which Anders maybe doesn't want to cast main phase. But I guess if there's a defense grid, then you could just Bowmasters main phase, so maybe he doesn't want to go towards those, but probably the Flusterstorms, maybe the grids, maybe the Teferi's Realms.
We'll have to see how the players want to approach it as they are finishing up sideboarding here. And while they're doing that, we're going to tell y'all to click that follow button. That way you don't miss any of the future energies coming up over the next coming couple of weeks, and throughout the rest of the year this year. We are going all over, and we're going to be announcing more of those dates as we get closer to them, so keep an ear out for that. And we'll be streaming all the events, and we'll check out what the players are playing for today really quick. Let's pull up those prices. The NRG Series 5K events have $1,200 for first and 30 points. Second place has $600 and 25 points. Third and fourth are 400 and 200 points. Fifth through eighth get 400, and then fifth through eighth get 200 with 15 points. Those points are our leaderboard. If we want to pull up that really quick, Healy, here. We have 2 seasons, Devin. That means during the first season, our top 3 players are going to make it to our end of the year championship. The names in orange are already qualified. So Dominic Harvey, Sean Gallagher, Matthew Hoey, those 3 players have punched their ticket to the NRG championship end of the year. $35,000 prize pool, Devin, with a Pro Tour invite on the line as well. It's an incredibly juicy spot there. We see a lot of names here this weekend on this leaderboard doing pretty well. We saw Roger Suleiman top 8 yesterday. Connor Mullally shook hands today. So the race is going to be incredibly tight as the year goes on. Zoe Reederman putting up a good finish as well. But our players should be ready, and we can figure out who we're going to be seeing in our top 8.
Yeah, and shout out to Joey DiGiacomo, too, who lost in the finals today, and I believe was putting up a performance today. I think maybe it was going X2 going into the last round, and, X2 going into the last round, you're dead for top 8, but every single one of those points matters, especially when you're, they're this early on in the season, getting those leaderboard points and trying to make that push towards the player of the year.
Yeah, getting the points matters a lot. For a lot of players, we saw Connor Mullally be our player of the year back in 2022, won by 1 point against Jesse Ropkin. And so, if you're making that kind of run, that matters. And it happens all the time, too, where these at-large bids where there's one person who's fairly safe going to the last weekend and the other 2 are sweating it, They're kind of like, well, these couple people could jump me. What can I do? And, making sure that you get every single finish matters. That's something that Connor did in 2022. Played a lot of tournaments out where he was playing just for that 1 extra point, but played them, got that point, and it mattered. Looks like Anders is going to text somebody back. Enhance. Let's see what we got.
Screen freeze. Enhance.
Yeah.
Enhance. Anyways, players looks like we're drawing our opening hands. Anders going to be on the play for game number 2. And, this matchup does not seem like the best for Anders. There are some cards, but it seems like maybe the combo is a bit too slow to set up and doesn't have a ton of meaningful interaction. No discard spells, no Force of Wills, anything like that. It does have the Pyroblasts, which can help a little bit, but it seems like James's deck is not only faster, but also Anders does not have the proper interaction.
Yep. We're going to see a land and a passing of the turn here from Anders.
Mason, quick hits. What land is that?
Devin, I'll keep it a buck. I have no clue. I think it's Ancient Tomb, but I'm not sure.
It is a Great Furnace.
It's a Great Furnace?
The greatest of furnaces. Don't ask me why I know that. Well, the reason I know that is because I'm looking at Anders' deck list, and I look at these lands, and I know for a fact, I know what all the other lands look like, so that by process of elimination, it was Great Furnace.
I don't even see Great Furnace in his lands.
Yeah,
it's in artifacts. The artifacts. Oh, yeah. My goodness. Oh, Brad Fix melee as we see an engineer come down.
Mason, if you think that's good, take a look at the enchantments.
Oh my gosh, Urza's Saga. Gosh bless. Is that because it's first in the type line? It's got to be it.
I think so, yeah.
Oh my god. I was like looking at I was to the point where I was like, did we have a deck reg error? Do we need to get a judge involved? Like,
nope.
I just had to assume it was Ancient Tomb.
Okay, that I have no idea what that
That's
is.
Ancient Tomb. I know that's Ancient Tomb.
Well, it can't be because we searched off of Goblin Engineer.
I know. I just said it really confidently. I just
okay.
wanted to be right. I shouldn't have lied to you like that. I don't know why I did. I was just getting a little feisty. It's going to be a long 3 hours.
I'm looking at the deck list and I have no. What could that even be?
It's probably a one-of card. It might be a Shadowspear.
I can't imagine you would tutor for a Shadowspear against the High Tide deck, though.
Gotta get your attacks in. I mean, James isn't pulling any cards out. It has to be a one-of situation.
Okay, so let's look at one-ofs in Anderson's
Could it be a
deck.
Thorn of Amethyst? Oh, it is. It's the Shard of Narsil from Lord of the Rings.
How did I not know that?
Obviously, I should have known about the Shard of Narsil.
Wow. How could we not know about the Shard of Narsil?
I still stand by the Shadowspear line. Like, you just get the beats on.
Norm's got to get us out of here if we don't know the Shards of Narsil.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'm washed. Oh, sorry. That's not the card. We're looking for Shards of Narsil.
Yeah, that is not the card.
You can buy Shards of Narsil over at NRG. We have them in the booth.
All right, we get a nice little Ponderosa here from James Robertson. See what we can find off of that. Looking for some combo pieces. Wants to start and set up like a High Tide with a couple of cantrips and ways to untap lands and get into Time Spiral or potentially a Mind's Desire. You did point out Mind's Desire recently unbanned. I feel like it hasn't. I want to say that people were pretty excited when it did get unbanned, but I don't really think it's done that much. And maybe this might be the best home for it. Yeah, that's my understanding is that, the first couple of weeks we saw some players do some stuff, right? Brute force, but the consensus has sort of been, there's just better things to be doing, Like the Scaminator deck has been one that has been absolutely dominating the events. We saw it even top 8 the showcase earlier today on Magic Online. And, it's just such a powerful deck that doesn't seem to have ported over to the NRG here today, or if it did, the players just didn't perform very well with it. But, there's just been some better stuff as we see Agatha's Soul Cauldron hit the graveyard. And that card, allows for some combos, but also some graveyard hate. Maybe we'll, throw off some of James's plays. Yeah, if you get the Cauldron in play, you could, like we talked about with Leyline of the Void, could potentially, Leyline exile one of the High Tides to make it less likely that James can search or, draw it again off of a Time Spiral. But it seems like it's maybe a little bit too narrow, but we are going to go ahead and fetch that Cauldron. Now, we're not just fetching the Cauldron because it's graveyard hate. Remember, this Rakdos, it's labeled as Rakdos aggro, but it is really a combo deck. And Anders is trying to assemble Agatha's Soul Cauldron plus Phyrexian Devourer and Walking Ballista. So Anders is maybe trying to get the party started here with that Cauldron. But yeah, it seems like maybe the combo takes a little bit too long to set up, especially in a matchup like this. Yep. See Lorien reveal here, the cycle for James. Honestly, that card might be better for the deck than, Mind's Desire was. Just another fetch land that you can just cast pretty easily as a draw 3, I'm sure Mind's Desire is great for this deck, but this card's actually so powerful as we've seen in all the other formats. So we are going to see a draw for the turn here from James. You can figure out what he wants to do. Last turn, we saw him go off on turn 3. Not much pressure right now. We could see another setup turn. Looks like we're going to see the Medallion in the pass. So all our blue spells are going to cost, an Echoing Truth here. Oh, okay. Echoing Truth is going to bounce the Goblin Engineers. One of them is able to be activated this turn, though. The only one of them has Summoning Sickness. So we are going to put that Cauldron into play. I don't know why the Engineer's in the graveyard. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it looks like a little dexterity error. It happens. And I think that might be a Pyroblast. I think so, too. Listen to that Echoing Truth going. Yeah, Andrew's going to fight over the Echoing Truth with the Pyroblast, keep the Engineers in play. And, we mentioned the combo. We're trying to set up the Phyrexian Devourer plus Walking Ballista. Now, the question is, do we have the means to do so this turn? And the answer is, well, we got the third Goblin Engineer. There's half of it.
Yep. Oh, he has it in hand. It looks like he's showing that maybe he can win.
Oh, the Devourer is in hand. Okay.
So here is the Dragon Engine.
So how's this work? Okay. So from my understanding, you would need... Oh, well...
So the Phyrexian Dragon Engine, when it enters the battlefield, you may discard your hand if you draw 3 cards if it entered from the graveyard. So we're going to sack the Petal to get the Dragon Engine, which is going to discard our hand, which is going to put the Phyrexian Devourer into the graveyard, which is then going to let us draw 3 cards and maybe hope to get there.
Well, the awkward part is here, if you sacrifice the Lotus Petal, that's your mana. You'd also have to sacrifice the Cauldron. And I think we have to keep the Cauldron in play in order to set up the combo. So I'm wondering... So, Let me look up Phyrexian Devourer again. It's such an odd card, so I want to make sure. Yeah, okay, it's 6 mana, 1/1, and then remove the top card of your library from the game to put X counters on it. So the goal is you either, like if you have a Walking Ballista in play and a Devourer exiled with Cauldron, or vice versa, then you can set up the combo that way. So it looks like we are just going to sack the Cauldron, and Anders did find the Walking Ballista too.
Yeah. And looks like we're going to sack the Furnace.
Okay.
Which gets back the Cauldron.
And he has Ballista in hand, but we need to be able to play the Ballista for X equals 1 because we don't have the means to exile both the Ballista and the Cauldron this turn since we only get 1 Cauldron activation.
Yeah, this might be a spot where Anders just needs to pass and hope James doesn't have it.
Unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty sure we have to wait 1 more turn for Anders. Or if he had like something like an Ancient Tomb, could go tap Ancient Tomb, cast a Ballista for 1, eat the Devourer with the Cauldron, and then that would be the kill from there.
I have to see how this goes. Looks like Anders double checking in. Let's see if James can do it.
Yeah, unfortunately for Anders, just a little bit short there. Has the combo, but not quite enough mana to assemble it. And James untapping with 3 lands and a Medallion and potentially a grip full of cards. We'll have to see and see if James can find the kill this turn.
Yeah, if James has something like a High Tide into a draw spell, we might be able to, get this going. But we only have 3 cards in hand. So it is not, like when we went in the first game, we had like 5. It looks like we have a Mystic Sanctuary. I put something on top.
Yeah, that could put a cantrip on top. Perhaps you could even put something like an Echoing Truth, I guess. Echoing Truth. Yeah, that's actually... If James knows what's going on here, Echoing Truth could sort of break up the combo, where if the Cauldron eats the Devourer and then Echoing Truth bounces the Cauldron, there's only 1 Devourer in Anders' deck list.
We put a Lorien Revealed on top, and this makes me feel like we're High Tiding. High Tiding.
Confirmed High Tiding.
It's like Hot Pockets, Make 2 blue.
See, this is where if we had the ability to fast forward, just saying.
Yeah. It's like when Marvel Snap, when they have like a billion things going on. He goes like,
yep.
So we're going to see a snap on the creature, untaps 2 lands. And those lands are making a lot of mana. And we only had to tap 1. We only had to use 1 of our mana, thanks to the Medallion. Okay.
Making some mana. Let's see if we get a payoff. It's a payoff. It's not guaranteed, though. It's only 4 storms, so...
Yeah, this might not be good enough.
James recognizing that, the very likely dead next turn with the Cauldron and the Devourer, so is definitely aware of what Anders is up to, and we'll have to see if James gets a little lucky off these 4 cards here.
Yeah, best hit's probably like a Mind's Desire into some draw spells.
Yeah, usually Desire, you just want to keep hitting Desires. If you Desire into Desire, that's the best. Well, there's... Okay, well, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad.
So we Mind's Desired into the 3rd Medallion. We get a Surgical Extraction and the Spiral. So we're probably going to end up using the Surgical at some point during this before we cast the next Mind's Desire. But We're going to start with that. Maybe force the cauldron to activate. Obviously, the cauldron can eat the creature if they go for that, but you might see something else get targeted.
So there's actually an interesting line here where James, I think maybe didn't see this, but if James had cast the Time Spiral, Anders had to respond with the cauldron targeting the Devourer, and then James could have responded in Surgical the Devourer.
That would have been very sick, but looks like we do have it underneath now, but it's okay. We're going to spiral. That is going to make Anders lose the Walking Bliss.
Yeah, that Thorn should not be shuffled. Yeah, I mean, it's time shifted anyways, but we'll see if they catch it.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
Looks like the Mind's Desire, once again, is going to get cast later for free.
Yeah.
Once this is all said and done. Yeah, it looks like Anders is...
Okay, there we go. There's the Thorn.
Time. Yeah.
What was it? It's not Thorn. What was it called again? The Shard?
Oh. I'm sorry, do you not know the name of it off the top of your head after we had a learning moment together?
No, and you're buying time because you're just trying to search for it.
It's Shards of Narsil. I don't need to buy time, Devin. I'm a professional. Fine. Shards of Narsil. It's part of the Shards of Narsil from the Lord there.
Clearly.
Obviously. I know about the Nazgul too.
I do know about the Nazgul.
Yeah, I learned about them because there's like 9 of them, which showed me in design they were down to do extra copies of cards in the set. But then with the One Ring, they didn't do the one of thing. Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder. Makes me wonder about High Tide. That's what it makes me wonder about. We see 7 cards coming off the top here for James. 3 medallions. I lost track of how many High Tides cast. I think it was just 1.
I think so too.
Plenty of mana because basically every spell in James's deck costs 1 mana at this point with those 3 medallions.
Yep. The Mind's Desire is still good.
How about 4?
That's good. And the Storm count goes up there as well. Anders is tapped out.
We got a Brainstorm. Still has that Desire too, but James wants to kind of just utilize all of the cards in his hand to get maximum value out of that Desire. Just to basically do everything that we need to, everything that we can before we cast that Desire to try and make sure we hit the maximum number of cards off of it. You can imagine, like I said, like you said, there is a fail rate with this High Tide deck, but it just seems like realistically, what's the fail rate? Like 0.001%,
Yeah, at this point, right? Like when we did the first Mind's Desire, that wasn't the fail rate was that high. It was like, okay, well, we could hit like lands and some medallions and pass. But here, just every spell is netting us mana for the most part. We're sculpting a little bit and we're just storming. Theoretically, once again, we could Mind's Desire for 11 and hit, all our lands and our bounce effects, whatever. But with this Fae of Wishes, that should lock it up because we're going to go get, probably Jace Wielder of Mystery once again, put that onto the battlefield. Might get Brain Freeze first, depends on kind of how we want to do things. Looks like James is going to get the Jace first. Hey, Twitch chat, by the way, can I get a 1 in chat if you knew about Thorn of Amethyst's name, which is what again, Devin?
I don't know. You're going to look it up, though.
I don't have to look it up. Shards of Narsil. We said it a billion times, and it's in Twitch chat. I can see them talking about it.
Well, I see Shards of Nostrils, but
I'm dyslexic. Want to bring it up? Want to try to push me down? Let's chat. All right, chat's being honest. I respect them for that. As we are going to see a ponder happening here. Fae of Wishes is on the battlefield. It can be bounced to your hand by discarding 2 cards. This could just be a situation where James just needs to make sure he can't lose via some nonsense.
All right. 4 Sapphire Medallions, Jace Wielder of Mysteries, a Trillion Storm, Mind's Desire still able to be cast for free. Anders was very close to winning this game, right? It felt like Anders was just 1 mana short or 1 card in graveyard short, like with the drew the combo, had the Devourer, Ballista, and Cauldron, but was just a little bit short of setting that up. So We presume that James is going to take this game. We see a Mind's Desire for
Yeah.
X equals 16. So, you mentioned there is a possibility of bricking. I guess you could hit 16 lands.
The problem is if you hit 16 lands, the one from before is 17 looks, and there's not 30 lands.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I think we have hit the actual deterministic. And I'll say it: if you're trying to punish the combo player, you got to scoop your cards up. They like doing this.
True.
You're not punishing them. This is just fun. As we are going to see.
What's that whiteboard card? I saw a whiteboard card in there.
I thought it was a Hercules recall, but I could be
mistaken.
Oh,
it's a Hercules. Okay.
Yeah.
Just in case we thought there was a chance that Anders might have had it out. Now the Devourer has been exiled, and now Anders can't even combo kill at this point. There's only one Devourer, so
might want to search up that Shadowspear. Get the welder going.
We also can't get the Shards of Narsil.
That's true. It's exiled. We could use an Eldrazi Strangler. Eldrazi Strangler. Process it back to the graveyard.
Ooh,
then
we're cooking.
If High Tide continues to be a big force in the metagame, you might want to consider that, Anders, as you come back to watch your future match.
Who let this man cook?
James, friend. Let's brain freeze. Let's do it.
Yeah. Can we show him the brain freeze in the sideboard? It's got to be there.
Yeah, this might also be a situation where James might be able to actually just Mind's Desire the deck away and not actually brain freeze it
manual
away.
Mode, yeah. All right, there's the Fae of Wishes with a more than lethal storm count, and James just going to go ahead and show Anders the brain freeze, we presume.
I presume that everyone should make sure to follow NRG series here on Twitch so they don't miss any of the actions of the upcoming events. As we are going to see brain freeze get grabbed. Anders is going to extend the hand, and congratulations to James Robertson. Should be making our top 8. We will get those final standings here in just a few minutes. But wow, that was so close, like you said there for Anders, but didn't quite get there.
Yeah, Anders had the means to set up the combo, had the Ballista, the Soul Cauldron, and the Phyrexian Devourer, but just came up just a little bit short. And again, we believe that was a win and in. So I don't want to say congratulations, but if you're in top 8, definitely good showing, James.
Yep. Hey, no matter what, top 16 guaranteed there, and that is a great finish. So final standings are getting finished up right now. The round is ending. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes with our rest of our top 8 today. So we'll see y'all in just a bit.